Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Charahoe School Committee meeting for Tuesday, December 16th. Thank you all for being here tonight. So we are going to reconvene open session.
I recommend closing and sealing of the minutes tonight's executive session as they pertain to matters which relate to the privacy of students and their records and of sessions pertaining to collective bargaining or litigation, or work sessions pertaining to collective bargaining or litigation.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. So this is the recognition section of our agenda, and we have some school committee members that are going to be participating in recognition this evening. So I'm going to start with Linda Lyall, please.
Chair, do we skip the executive session votes?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes,
That's
we
okay.
did.
Okay.
Yes.
Sorry.
Table that. So Laura Chapman will read off the disclosure of the executive session votes. Thank you, Laura.
Good evening, everybody. There were 3 votes taken in executive session tonight. The first one was the approval of the executive session minutes from November 18th, 2025. That was unanimous. The second vote was for the approval of homeschool requests. That was also unanimous. And the third vote was return to open session. That was unanimous as well.
Thank you.
I can do this
Now
now,
we will
Chair.
have Linda.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, so I start with the Charahoe Middle School. Charahoe Middle School would like to recognize our Science Olympiad students and Tricia Whipple, our 7th grade science teacher. On Sunday, December 7th, Charahoe students competed in Brown University's Science Olympiad. Charahoe Middle School took 5th place in the area of physiology and anatomy among more than 40 teams. Congratulations to all Charahoe students who competed. We'd also like to acknowledge 7th grade teacher Tricia Whipple, who received a WCCU teacher grant in the amount of $500, which will go to Charahoe Middle School Science Olympiad extracurricular activities. Congratulations. This recognition goes to the Charahoe High School All-State Band and Chorus. This was shared by teacher Morgan Bopp. Please join us in congratulating the following Charahoe High School students who were selected for this year's Rhode Island Music Education Association All-State Festival. Senior All-State Chorus, Alyssa Anderson, Lillian Hall, Reagan Noble, Elsie Smith, and Riley Swain. Thank you. Junior All-State Chorus was Ocean Blanco, Meyer Cousino, Kelly Drake, Lila Haberek, and Harper McCall. Congratulations. And the Junior All-State Band, Kellen Smith. Additionally, 3 of our chorus students ranked in the top 5 for their voice part, which is a significant accomplishment as such a competitive audition. They will take part in 3 intensive rehearsals in February and March with other students from across the state, where they will have the opportunity to learn and perform advanced music under the direction of experienced conductors and teachers. We hope you'll be able to attend their final festival performances. Junior All-State concerts will be taking place March 15th, 2026, and the Senior All-State concerts would be March 22nd, 2026. Congratulations to all.
Thank you, Linda. And moving on, we're going to have recognition from Polly Hopkins for Charahoe Athletics additional postseason awards. Polly.
Okay, for boys cross country, team accomplishment finished 2nd in the Southern Division with a 7-1 record and qualified for the state championship. First team all division, Leo Haxton. Second team all division, Ben Steer, Isaac Graham, Cam Coggshall. Third team all division, Caden Lott, Luke Baxter, Nathan Way. Third team all class B, Leo Haxton, Ben Steer, Cam Coggshall. All academic, Ben Steer, Tony Guglielmo, Nick Willis, and Coach's Award to Grayson Moffitt.
I like it.
And I get the honor of reading tennis as well. All academic, Allison Cole, Aubrey Campbell, Ella Murphy, Mackenzie Andrade, Allie Wood. And Team Sportsmanship Award goes to Olivia Gray.
Thank you, Polly. And Karen Reynolds will read the recognition for football.
Football, first team all division, Sawyer Mason, Rafi Garcia. Second team all division, Isaac Haig, Aiden Etchells, Logan Smith, Trevor Cheney, Wes Maggs. Third team all division, Cole Carlson, Braden Russo. All academic, Luke Felkner, Sawyer Mason, Logan Smith. Providence Gridiron Club, offensive MVP, Sawyer Mason, defensive MVP, Rafi Garcia. Thanksgiving Day Awards, Charahoe wins 15-0 for a third in a row on Thanksgiving. Special Teams Player of the Game, Wes Maggs. Offensive Player of the Game, Rafi Garcia. Defensive Player of the Game, Cole Carlson. Lineman of the Game, Isaac Haig. And Game MVP, Aiden Etchells.
Thank you, Karen. And for boys soccer, I'm going to turn this over to our superintendent, Gina Picard.
So this is always exciting when we have state champions, and we have a lot of them in the room tonight. What I'll do first is I will announce with the coach, if you don't mind, Angela, if you could bring the coach the certificates and the coach's certificate, if Coach Brian Williams could step up to the podium. And then Mr. Williams. So, Coach Williams, I want to ask for your assistance as I say the names. Boys, if you could do me a favor, when he calls your name, you're going to get your certificate, and you're going to start lining up so that we can take a lovely photo of all of you before you exit. Stage right, probably. I'll have to ask Ms. Hall if I got that correct. So, for your citations say the Charahoe High School varsity boys soccer team and coaches on their Rhode Island Interscholastic League 2025 soccer championship win. And our team roster, beginning with Connor Prescott, Elijah Boyce, James Fasaro, Brandon Ressinger, Tucker McClincy, Ryan Sheldon, Ethan McCann, Luca Fasaro, Casey Poplowski, Mitchell Creamer, Clive Wynn, Joe Cunha, Tim McCormick, Broden Grandchamp, Sean Dorgan, Carlos Herrera, Reed McCann, Vinny Ferrara, Wilson Herrera, Colby Bennett. Some of our boys have winter sports, so Angelo Guido, Landon Meyer, Maverick Marone, Brendan Gleason, Liam Marcotte, Aaron Rice, Antonio Urso, Ryan Coolian, Landon Kay, Dominic Giordano, and Dylan Edenbach. I'd also like to recognize assistant coaches Brittany Faragali, Joel Gabelson, and Jacob Aruda. Congratulations to all. Coach, would you like to say a few words about your team's work this year?
Sure, I have a couple things. It's a great privilege to be a part of this community and be coaching here. This is my second year here, and very proud of the boys. You know, this is a very young team. We only have 2 seniors, and you know, I walked in and I always kept telling them that the expectation is really high and we want to be the best we can be. And we had a roller coaster season, and as the season ended, we just had a great road, and I kept telling them that if we keep our mind and keep our heads, we can do anything we want to do. And as you can see here, we did everything we could, and we won the state championship. You can't be more proud of something like that. Yeah, that's, you know, we've created memories that they're going to last a lifetime. And I think that's the big thing that's for every high school athlete. There's not many people that can go and say they won a state championship, and having that opportunity is something that you'll remember for the rest of your life. So that's it.
So while we get the photo, boys, I'm going to be calling out your big wins for the soccer team for the division. So just take your photo. You don't have to come over here. I'm just going to let everybody know your awesome accomplishments. First team all conference, Ethan McCann. Second team all conference, Luca Fasaro. First team all division, Ethan McCann, Luca Fasaro. Second team all division, Colby Bennett, Reed McCann, Aaron Rice. Third team all division, Mitchell Creamer. All academic, Ryan Sheldon. Distinguished Player of the Year, Ethan McCann. And the all tournament team, Connor Prescott, MVP, Colby Bennett, Ethan McCann, and Tim McCormick. Great job all around, gentlemen. And then, Mr. O'Brien, if you could cue and just get it ready, the FBLA. I want to show him how to make sure everything's cued.
Do you think he heard you, right?
Yeah, he's
queuing
got it.
us up.
Sue was- While the photo is being taken, Mrs. Susan Pryor, if you would join us at the podium. Mrs. Pryor is our FBLA advisor, which stands for Future Business Leaders of America. And they are here today to share with you some of the wonderful accomplishments and opportunities they had at our FBLA national competition trip to Anaheim, California.
Good evening, Mrs. Picard, Dr. Camilla, Mr. Zenian, Mrs. Dinsmore, and members of the school committee. My name is Susan Pryor, and I am the business department chair and also the advisor to the Future Business Leaders of America. In June, we had 7 FBLA members: Mackenzie Andre, Jackson Davis, Rose Chabkunian, Kara Link, Nicholas Willis, Isaac Graham, and F.A. Kosaglu, who placed in the Rhode Island competitions. We traveled to Anaheim, California to represent Charahoe at the National FBLA Leadership Conference attended by 15,000 members. Students participated in competitions, workshops, conference events, as well as experienced local Anaheim attractions. It was an amazing experience for all. This is Rose. Rose. We are truly grateful for your continued support of our organization. Tonight, our members are participating in sports and regret that they could not be here to express their appreciation in person. We have created this video to share their gratitude with you.
I was one of the FBLA National Leadership Conference competitors last year, and I'm this year's secretary. Unfortunately, I'm currently at a track meet, and so are the other competitors, so we can't be with you in person tonight. We want to say thank you for all of your support in allowing us to compete last summer at the NLC. It was a fantastic opportunity to see what it's like to compete in a national competition. It also allowed us to network with others within our state and with competitors from other states that we wouldn't have been able to connect with otherwise.
Hi, I'm Kara. I'm a senior at Charahoe, and Anaheim was actually my second national conference, and just like the year before, I gained a whole new and much deeper perspective on business, which furthered my knowledge that will help me throughout the next stages in my life. The connections I made with not only peers but mentors, along with the experiences that came from FBLA Nationals, will be ones I cherish forever, and we are so incredibly grateful that we could attend this conference.
Hi, my name is Rose Chabkunian. I'm a junior at Charahoe High School, and I also am an FBLA member that attended the Nationals in Anaheim, California. This was my take on the conference that we went to. Attending the conference presentations gave us better understanding of real-world businesses, strategies, and what it takes to be a future business owner. The sessions shared helpful strategies on how to manage and grow a company while also improving our knowledge of leadership, entrepreneurship, and professional skills. These experts helped us prepare for future careers by strengthening our critical thinking, communication, and decision making. Thank you for letting everyone accomplish going to nationals and helping us out.
So thank you once again for your continued support. We look forward to competing at the state level again this year and hopefully representing the Charahoe chapter on the national level in San Antonio.
Nicely done.
Thank you again so much.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you, Ms. Pryor.
That was great. Okay, so we are on to our public forum section of the agenda. So those of you who signed up to speak will be asked to come to the podium and state your name and town that you reside. I have it. You're welcome to speak during public forum about items not on the agenda. Per our public forum policy, the speaker who makes a public statement has the responsibility to be accurate, present facts, present information based on personal knowledge, not hearsay, be considerate, and allow others to speak without interruption. Please direct your comments to the chair. And as the chair of the school committee, it's my responsibility to ensure decorum and be mindful of time management. With that being said, we have several speakers signed up this evening, so each of you will have 3 minutes to offer your remarks, and our vice chair, Laura Chapman, will be keeping time. So I'm going to ask the community members in the audience to refrain from cheering, clapping, booing, shouting, or disrupting the speaker who has the floor. And we have a number of speakers tonight, as I mentioned, and I believe I'm going to hold you to 3 minutes. And our first speaker is from Hopkinton, and that's Jasmine Roy. Jasmine.
Good evening, everyone. Jasmine Roy from Hopkinton. I'm coming tonight to address the school committee. Recent meetings, you guys did a overall of the RICAS scores again. I watched from home, and then I got in the mail, you know, the thing they send out and tells you where your child is and all this stuff. And at the end of grade 4, I decided to take my son out of the public school system. For grades 3 and 4, I was told that he was a grade level behind in reading. And I was very, I was upset. I didn't want to see my son not being at meeting the level. So I decided to change things up. And my question, one semester at his new school, and my son has an 84 in reading. So I don't understand how it could go from the summer to a whole nother school, and he has now an 84 where he was a grade level behind in reading, as I was told by his report cards in 3rd and 4th grade. I don't know where the disconnect is. And now, mind you, he has 25 kids in his class. This is not a small classroom that he is in. So it's not like he has more one-on-one time or more, time. I don't know what the disconnect is here, but the other children, I don't know if they're accurately tested or if their scores are accurate, because how could my son go from being a grade level behind in reading to an 84 in one semester? Also, I don't think I have anything else. I've been really sick, so they pumped me full of steroids. So I'm like, kind of shaky today. But I did want to make that a point that, I want the kids to learn. I don't know what the problem is. And grades 1 through 3 are so essential for them to learn the core skills and values of reading. So I wanted to bring this to the attention of the committee to find out if there's anything different that the community could do, because now I found that I made the right decision. I made the right decision by putting my son in a private Catholic school, even though that is not my religion. He is getting a better education, but it's also put an undue burden on my family financially. Not only are we forced to pay taxes on the property that we live on, and 80% of that goes to the school system, but I also have to pay $900 a month to send my child to a different school so he can get a quality education. I know that you say that's your choice. That's your choice. No, it was not a choice. My son's education is not a choice. So I will continue to struggle to pay for my son's education. Thank you.
Thanks, Jasmine. Amy St. Pierre from Hopkinton.
My name is Amy St. Pierre. I'm from Hopkinton. I am here today as a parent who is deeply concerned about my daughter's safety in the school and the response to a serious act of violence upon my child. On November 25th, the day before the holiday break, my daughter was physically assaulted by a male classmate. This was not a minor incident or a mutual conflict. My daughter was faced with a visibly angry, aggressive male student charging at her with no way to defend herself, and in fear, she curled up in the fetal position on the ground, placing her hands on her head to protect herself. While she was on the ground, the student started yelling, pulling her hair, repeatedly kicking her in the back and in her tailbone. This male student had to be physically removed off of my daughter by staff, at which time the male assaulted the two staff members. Equally concerning is the lack of response that followed. According to the school's handbook, incidents involving physical assault require specific action. This is referenced on page 19. Despite the severity of the incident, law enforcement was never notified of this incident on the day of the assault by administration or any day following this incident. When acts of violence on a student occur and an established safety protocols are not followed, it sends a dangerous message to students, parents, and the community that these actions can be minimized or handled quietly rather than addressed with the seriousness they demand. My daughter is now looking over her shoulder. She's not confident and safe at school. A safety plan was in place for this male student to stay away from my daughter prior to the assault. If this was actually implemented, it would have prevented this harm from my child. Any further safety plan, I have no trust in the school in using their available resources to keep my child safe from the offender. Policies exist for a reason, to protect children when they are most vulnerable. Ignoring these policies put all students at risk, all kids, all the time. Even more alarming is this was not an isolated incident. 10 days following the assault on my daughter, there was an incident involving a female student being assaulted by a male student at the school dance at the middle school that was also not addressed with an incident or phone call to law enforcement. This demonstrates a troubling pattern and raises serious concern for student safety. I want accountability, transparency, and immediate corrective action. I want to know why policy was not followed, why law enforcement was not notified, why the offender was allowed back in school the following school day after Thanksgiving break, and what concrete steps will be taken to ensure this does not happen again. Our children deserve a safe, distraction-free learning environment and a system that responds decisively with safety in mind for something violated. My daughter is 10 years old. She's a little girl who was playing a game in the gym with her peers. The whole 5th grade class witnessed this, the assault on my daughter, where she had to physically cover herself and were in fear for her own safety. The student was removed by 2 staff members who were assaulted. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Mrs. St. Pierre. Thank you. Next is Tim St. Pierre from Hopkinton.
My name is Tim St. Pierre. I'm from Hopkinton. In addition to what Amy just spoke about, in an effort for me to understand exactly what the policy and procedure is on how a situation like the one our daughter was involved in gets resolved, I referred to the student handbook, and I noticed that there is a definition for assault, and I'm sure everybody is familiar with the student handbook, but the consequences also state 5 to 10 days of out-of-school suspension. This child was at the school the next day when my wife arrived for a meeting with the principal. Other items on this consequence list is possible SS assignment, police contact, referral to the superintendent and or school committee for additional discipline and intervention. It goes on and on. From what I understand, the school committee was not aware of this incident. I don't know why. I don't know why the police were not involved. At the beginning for the standards of the student handbook for the Charahoe Regional Middle School, it states our goal is to change the inappropriate behaviors, just paraphrasing here. In addition, therefore, focusing on reshaping behavior and not punitive nature of issuing consequences for some reason. But it also states that administering consistent and equal enforcement for all. I don't know how you can do that if you're not following a standardized list that's in your handbook for any number of consequences for any number of actions that could possibly occur. It says here that it's intended to follow the policies of the school committee. Any changes or differences decreed at state or federal levels would take precedence over the Charahoe Middle School behavior. I understand that. Okay. But there's another troubling final sentence in here. It says any modifications to this is in bold, by the way. Any modifications of the code in issuing consequences will be done at the discretion of the administration and consultation with the teachers for whom the disciplinary referral originated. I don't know who the administration is. There are definitions in here of items of what that defines certain things. Administration is not one of them. It seems as though that it yields power back to the school to just do whatever they want, regardless of what is in the student handbook for outlined consequences. Any number of them require possible or police contact. We asked the police, all we wanted was documentation from the school that this incident occurred and how it occurred and what the nature of the circumstances were. So we had something in writing for ourselves. That's what we wanted. And then come to find out, there is no documentation. There is no incident report that the school generates or anything like that. However, the police department, we have a school resource officer at the school who was not notified of this, who would be the perfect disinterested third party to understand the facts and circumstances as it relates to what happened, provide an impartial report. And what do we do when the due process, every student, it says here, has the right to a fair and impartial investigation? Well, what do we do when we don't know if that is a fair and impartial investigation that's happening into the offender or of an assault? You know, there is no recourse. I'm just looking at this. This came off the website today. It's was last revised in 2023. It's been updated yearly at least since 2008. However, there has been no updates to this for 2024 or 25. So I'm curious, does anybody review this? When was the last time anybody looked at this? In the Code of Conduct, it states for the Charahoe Schools and School Committee that they must act in the best interest of Charahoe Regional School District. How can you act in the best interest of the regional school district when you don't have the best interest of the students in mind who get assaulted and offended or get attacked? The regional school district is the kids. If you're not acting they should just change that to the children of Charahoe School District. That's what that should say.
Thank you, Mr. St. Pierre.
Thank you.
Appreciate your feedback. Justin Bentley?
Hi, good evening. I apologize again for having something prepared, but it's the window to that I'm reading rather than speaking. I want to talk tonight about hateful rhetoric and the real-world consequences it can have, especially in school communities. In the wake of the recent tragedy at Brown University, it's impossible to ignore how often schools and educators are portrayed as threats rather than protectors. We see this play out daily on social media, claims that students are being indoctrinated, suggestions that social emotional learning is dangerous, accusations that teachers have hidden agendas. When repeated often enough, this harmful political language depicts schools as something to fear rather than something to protect. Our students hear this, our teachers hear this, our families hear this. And in an era when threats against schools are increasing, we should be asking ourselves whether our language is helping to create safe, supportive environments, or whether it's adding fuel to fear and division. The word indoctrination is thrown around a lot, and I find that especially dangerous. It suggests malicious intent. It implies harm, and it fundamentally misrepresents what is actually happening in our classrooms. Teaching students how to think critically, how to manage emotions, how to treat others with respect, and how to exist in a diverse society is not indoctrination. It's education. It is also a key component of keeping students safe and supported. Every member of the school committee holds a public platform, and with that platform comes real influence. What you choose to post, share, respond to, or even leave unchallenged or unanswered sends a message. When harmful claims are amplified or when extreme rhetoric is entertained without pushback, it signals what is acceptable in our community. That matters, especially when the subject is our schools and the safety of the people inside of them. At the end of the day, we're all here for the same reason. We want students to be safe, supported, and able to learn without fear. We want educators to feel respected and backed by the leadership. I urge each of you to use your platform, both in this room and online, please, to lift up this school community, to reject fear-based narratives, and to model the kind of leaderships our students expect and most definitely deserve, especially in moments like this. Thank you.
Thank you. Greg Avedisian from Hopkinton. Okay, thank you. Tracy Sylvia from Richmond.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
I too am going to read from this. I also want to state that I commend and agree with everything Mr. Bentley just said. And I didn't realize this was on the agenda, but hopefully I'm okay because it's about the recognitions that just happened. I was going to bring up the Science Olympiad because I took part in that last Sunday. Is that okay to still discuss? Okay. In the recognitions, it mentioned that CMS Science Olympiad brought home an award. They actually brought home 2 awards. And I wanted to note that CMS competed against a few public schools. Barrington was there, of course, and North Cumberland, and I believe another Rhode Island public school. The majority of the other 30 to 40 schools were private charter, magnet, other private religious schools, and several top-of-the-nation academies from New York, New Jersey, etc. And CMS won 2 of the awards out of the 30 categories. Imagine what they could do with more funding. And it also just shows how strong our science department is in Charahoe with the little funding that they receive. More importantly, that team spent almost 12 hours at Brown University. Several hours in the building where this weekend's tragedy occurred, some students in the same lecture hall. One of the victims was the event coordinator for the tournament last weekend. The toll this took on the Brown students, faculty, and staff cannot be understated, as well as all students at all Rhode Island schools and universities. I hope this committee will take a moment to recognize this impact and reflect how much in common we share as parents and community members when it comes to truly supporting all students. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. Catherine Giusti from Hope Valley.
Thank you. I wanted to thank you for supporting the SEL mini grant at the last meeting. When Mrs. Martin visited, she was asked a very basic question, what do you need? She didn't give a complicated answer and she didn't present a wish list. She said plainly, we need more adults in the room. Voting for this grant was the obvious choice. Voting for it showed a focus on students, not on whatever the outrage of the week is on social media. The noise around social emotional learning, or SEL, has become absurd. Social and emotional learning is not new, shouldn't be controversial, and not some undercover political project. It's the same basic skill building every one of us grew up with. The only thing that's changed is that some people discovered they could twist the term, blow it up, and use it to frighten the public. We all had SEL as kids. It was learning to raise your hand, learning to stand in line, learning not to shove the kid next to you, learning to respect adults. SEL teaches children how to act like human beings in a community. It teaches restraint, empathy, and boundaries, the same expectations every workplace and every adult environment has. At its core, SEL is simply teaching the golden rule. The panic being pushed about SEL is not coming from the classrooms. It's coming from people who see an opportunity in fear. People who think that if they shout indoctrination loudly enough, no one will notice that what they're describing is literally kindergarten behavior expectations. And too often that fear works. It drowns out facts, it distracts from the real issues, and it pulls attention away from students and turns every conversation into a culture war skirmish. So let's call this what it is. SEL isn't the problem. Misrepresentation is, manufactured outrage is, and choosing to attack kindness because it fits a narrative is. SEL isn't the boogeyman waiting in the closet to come and indoctrinate your kids. Allowing yourself to be led by misinformation and then doubling down on it absolutely weakens our schools and our community. So thank you for fighting against that by voting for the mini grant. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. And Laura Chapman from Charlestown.
Hi, everybody. Laura Chapman, Charlestown. I'm here tonight. I received some messages, emails from some of the constituents in Charlestown, and I would like to share what was sent to me and then provide it for the minutes. This is titled "A Letter from Concerned Chariho Parents and Guardians." I am writing as a concerned member of the Chariho community to express my deep concern regarding the recent and unexpected turnover of longtime administrators within our district. In the span of just 6 months, 3 respected and experienced administrators have chosen to leave. This level of attrition, especially among individuals who have been pillars of leadership and stability, raises significant questions about the current climate within our district. These administrators were not only essential to the daily operation of their schools, but they have also carried years of institutional knowledge, strong relationships with staff and students and families, and a proven commitment to the success of the Chariho community. Their departures have left many parents, teachers, and students feeling unsettled and worried about the direction in which the district is moving. As parents and community members, we deserve transparency and reassurance. We would like to understand the following. What factors contributed to the loss of 3 long-time administrators in such a short period of time? What steps are being taken to ensure the remaining staff feel supported and valued enough to stay? What is being done to address the internal issues that may be impacting staff morale, retention, or confidence in district leadership? We all want Chariho to remain a strong, stable, and student-centered district. Administrator turnover of this magnitude is not something that can be overlooked or brushed aside. The community needs clarity, accountability, and a proactive plan to prevent further loss of essential leaders. I respectfully request that the school committee address this matter publicly and provide honest, transparent communication regarding the situation and the steps that are being taken moving forward. Our students deserve consistent leadership, and our community deserves answers. Thank you for your time and your attention to this important issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. We appreciate the input from the community tonight. Thank you. The business portion of our agenda is going to start with the fiscal 25 annual district audit. I believe we have Miss Haig here. Oh, there she is. How are you?
I'm good. I'm Mary Sahadi.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No problem.
Yes. Well, thank you and welcome.
Thank you. So we have your financial statements are all in front of you for this evening. And I will give you an overview of those statements. And if anyone has any questions, I would be happy to address them here this evening or get back to you with the answers to any specific questions. First, I would like to say that, again, this year, the district has what's referred to as an unmodified report, which basically means that you have no findings with regard to the financial data that's included in the report itself, and no findings in what's referred to as the Yellow Book report, which is also included in this report as part of the document, and it's a report on internal controls. So in addition to reporting on the financial data, we also report on the internal controls, and that report is in the document itself and can be found on pages 116 and 117. The financial statements are set up in the same format that they have been set up in prior years. The first part of the document itself is referred to as the management discussion and analysis, and that part of the financial statements is unaudited and is the area of the financial statements where the district has the ability to write in layman's terms a summary of the financial statements themselves and the outcome of the fiscal year, June 30, 2025, as well as of June 30, 2025. So what I mean there is there are balances specific to June 30, and there are other areas within the document itself which talks about the year of 2025. So that would be June 30 or July 1, 2024 through June 30, 2025. The financial statements continue into the next section, and the next section of the financial statements is referred to as the basic financial statements. So here you're going to have basically two sets of documents. You're going to have what's referred to as the government-wide financial statements, as well as the fund financial statements. So what you receive on a regular basis from your finance department, generally speaking, are the fund financial statements. So you're receiving the budget to actual information that's referred to in this document in the required supplementary information, but the government, so the generally accepted governmental standards, require you to report on accrual basis accounting. And that accrual basis of accounting is where you will find the government-wide. So in summary, what that really means is in your government-wide financial statements, you have your fixed assets as well as any long-term liabilities. So here in the district, you have capital assets. They're detailed in Note 5 on page 40, but in essence, the capital assets less the accumulated depreciation is $21 million. In addition, in terms of liabilities here, you have a net pension liability of $34 million. Of that $34 million, 33 of it is from the teacher plan, and 944 is from the municipal employee plan. You have a net OPEB liability. That is your other post-employment liability. That's for your health insurance for your retirees. That liability as of June 30 is $632,000. And in addition to that, you have approximately $17,000 of other long-term liabilities. And those are detailed on page 42 of the document if you were interested in the details of the liabilities. What is generally interesting to most communities, whether it be school districts or cities and towns, are the pages that begin with the general governmental fund balance sheet. And so here the district has two major funds. They have the general fund, which is your unrestricted school fund, and they have the debt service bond sinking fund. In addition, the remaining funds are referred to as non-major governmental funds, and they can be found starting on page 81. They represent all of your grants, which are included in the category called special revenue funds. It includes your capital project funds. You have two capital projects funds here at the district. You have the housing aid capital project fund, as well as the town members capital project fund. And in addition, excuse me, you have this small debt service fund that is also considered part of your non-major governmental funds. Bringing you back to your general fund, if you're on page 17 of the document, I think the area that is most important to all is what is the results as of June 30, 2025. And here, the area that you want to bring yourself to is the fund balance area. So fund balance, based on the governmental standards, is broken down into 4 categories. It would be non-spendable, restricted, committed, and unassigned. The non-spendable for the district here is $1.5 million. That basically represents the $1.485 million that you are included or is being held by your health insurance, and the $37,000 or $38,000 in prepaid. So what that means is the district doesn't have those monies available to spend at the moment because they're being held for particular purposes. The restricted is generally the debt service sinking fund, as well as any restricted funds in your non-major funds. For the committed area, Those are the vote that this council or this committee actually took. So of that committed $3 million that you see here, $3,050,000, $2.5 million of it is the money that you set aside for your 25-26 budget. And unassigned is $3.6 million. So when we look at the unassigned as an auditor and as a financial analyst, you're looking at that and you're saying how much of that really relates to, or what percentage of that is of your budget. And so here the district is quite conservative. When you look at the GFOA, they're saying that that amount should really represent somewhere between 7 and 10% of your total budget for the year. So your total budget this past year was $66.4 million. If we look at the $3.6 million, that is approximately 5.4%. If we look at it in combination with the committed amount, since 2.5 of it is really set aside for your 25-26 budget, we're really looking at just under 10%. So realistically, if everything breaks out even for fiscal 26, you will have expended $2.5 million of that in your 26 budget. So that's conservative. But on the flip side of it, if you have anything extraordinary that comes along that is going to demand resources of this district, you really don't have a lot left, if you will, when you're really looking at 5.4% of unassigned monies. So you just want to keep that in mind going forward. And we'll talk a little bit about the budget and actual when we get to that page within the document. And you can stop me, at any point.
Sorry, can I? I thought you said that it was 2.05. The carryover. Did you? I thought you said it was 2 million.
2.5 million
Oh,
is
2.5,
what.
not okay.
2.5 million. And that detail can actually be found on page 47 of this document.
Thank you.
The debt service bond fund, you've had that for a number of years. You've got 2 years left for that fund at this particular point. The debt that will be due on that will be $8.569 million. And the interest that you have put aside on that so far is $790,000. Again, as I indicated, the non-major governmental funds can be found starting on page 81. What I want to point out here this year, in fiscal year 2025, there were no funds that had any fund deficits. So what's good is that in the prior year, although there were a minimal amount of funds that had deficits, there were a couple. This year, there are no governmental funds that have a deficit. And we'll talk a little bit about the proprietary funds in a second, but there are no governmental funds that have a deficit this year. So those deficits are actually shown on page 37. So you did have some fund balances where this year the expenditures actually exceeded the revenue, but you had a fund balance, and so at the end of the year, there's no deficits. So that's really kudos to the district for making sure that you don't end up at year end with any deficits. Page 19 of the document is where you're going to find the revenues and expenses for the same funds that we just spoke about. So on the general fund, the budget and actual can be found on page 68. We'll talk a little bit about that, but the difference between what you see on page 68 and what we refer to here as the fund financial statements is $3.4 million, and that's the money the state sets aside for the on-behalf pension payments for the teachers. So there's a concept called on-behalf payments, and that's what you're seeing when you look at the difference of the $65 million that you're going to see in the budget and actual, and you're seeing $68 million here, and that's also described on page 68, so the reader can see the difference between the two sets of numbers, so to speak. In terms of your revenue, the only difference that I would I would suggest, well, I guess there are a few differences. Last year, if you remember, you had $779,000 that came back from the health trust fund as excess money. This year, you only had 41,000. So there's a significant difference there. The intergovernmental this year is 3.6 million as it compares to 3.2 million last year. The Medicaid is the largest difference. There was an increase in the Medicaid of 289 this year. Everything else was about the same. As you know, you vote the member participants, so you already know, of course, what the contributions are from the towns. Richmond and Hopkinton had the largest increases this past year, but again, obviously based on the number of students, et cetera. So not a significant change there. The interest income is actually down a little bit over the prior year, but as you know, the rates are starting to drop slightly, so you're going to continue to see the interest income pretty much continue to drop down and go back to where it was before the rates were really, and I'll use the word inflated, but they were pretty high there for a while. And thankfully, everyone that had the ability to set aside monies and invest as best as they could, you know, became winners with that interest income. So yes, it has decreased slightly over the prior year, and that will probably continue as time goes on. Next in the financial statements is the proprietary funds. And those proprietary funds, you have major and non-major proprietary funds, just like you have for the governmental funds. So the lunch fund is your major proprietary fund. It had a small deficit again this year, and so you want to keep an eye on that lunch fund because it is starting to decrease the fund balance that it has or fund equity. But the fund is still strong, but you want to keep an eye on that. And then your non-major funds, they're pointed out in the back of the document as well. And you can see the detail of those. And we'll just talk briefly on one or two of those as we get to the proprietary funds or the detail. Following the basic financial statements are the notes to the financial statements. And I won't bore you with all of the detail because as you can see from the notes, they go on and on and on. But page 37, if you want to just quickly go to page 37, you can see where it details what I just spoke about with regard to the current year having no fund balance deficits, with the exception of one in the proprietary funds. So if we look at the proprietary funds, they're made up of the night school remedial fund, the adult education fund, the athletics fund, and the CTC program. The only fund with a deficit in the fiscal year 25 is the athletics fund. And that is because you had a one-time expense of the scoreboard, is that correct? Of the scoreboard in fiscal 25. That was a capital item that was purchased that is expensed for purposes of this document. So you saw that deficit that, you know, theoretically you shouldn't have in years to come. Following that note 2, are notes on the cash, notes on the investments. Page 40 will give you the details of the capital assets that we spoke about a second ago when we were talking about the governmental-wide financial statements. And here you can see at least the categories for which the assets reside and the accumulated depreciation that goes along with them. On page 41, the right-to-use asset, that's a capital asset. It's now referred to as a right-to-use asset, but it's a capital asset. That $54,000, I believe, is the Apple lease that you have. The long-term debt is on page 42. 42, as you can see, you've got the 2 construction revenue bonds that are part of the bond sinking fund. So as we spoke with regard to the bond sinking fund. You have 2 more years on that, and then those payments will be due. And then for the other 2 bonds that you have, the revenue bond and the refunding revenue bond, the payments were made respectively to $610,000 on the first and then $580 to continue to bring down those balances. Other than that, I think the only other note that is, won't say of interest to everyone because everyone has interest in a lot of these notes, but will be the note 9, which will give you the detail of all the restricted funds, which primarily are all of your special revenue funds. And then the committed, as we talked about earlier, that $3,050,000 in the general fund, the $2.485 or $2.5 million, as I referred to it earlier, is the reappropriation to the 25-26 budget. The $100,000 that you voted was the administrator/contract payout. And then any potential contingencies was voted at $467,437. So that's where your total of $3,050,351 comes from. Note 10 is basically from the state, and that is the defined benefit plan for the teachers. Note 10 will also include the retirement plan for the municipal employees. So as I indicated earlier, $33 million of the $34 million liability relates to the teachers plan, and $900,000 or so, 940 some odd thousand dollars, represents the municipal plan. The other post-employment benefit, again, and these are all done by the actuaries, right? So the actuary for the state does the state plans, and then the actuary for the district does the other post-employment plan. And that liability as of June 30, 25 was $631,998. That can be found on page 63. And that is an increase over the prior year balance of $590. Some of that has to do with the number of employees and the age of employees and whether or not the employees have a single or a family plan. So that too is done by the actuary, and it's done based on the assumptions. I don't believe the district had any changes in the assumptions in fiscal year 25. So the liability changed basically based on a combination of, excuse me, the service costs as well as the other components that go into the calculation for the other post-employment benefits. Note 13 just gives you an idea of what you have incurred in terms of claims for health insurance because you're self-insured. So this past year, you had claims of $8.2 million, and you had deposits net into the plan of $7.9 million, and that can be found on page 65. Thank you. Page 66 includes your commitments and contingencies. And I know you all are aware of this because I believe you're actually working on it, but you've got a couple of bids or a couple of contracts that will need to go out for bid this year. Your Chatwell for your school nutrition, I believe is expiring, as well as your Ocean State Transit. So those are expiring this year. And so that note will be updated again next year when those contracts are renewed or replaced with new contracts. Page 68 is generally, I hate to put it this way, but when I'm talking to most people, it's the page that everyone's interested in versus the rest of the document. But this is where the budget and actual is. And again, because the district does a really great job on their finances on a monthly basis, there are no changes to what you've seen when you get monthly reports to what you're seeing here. Basically, what that means is we didn't make any audit adjustments. So the biggest turn back is the employee compensation, and you can see that you budgeted $37 million. You expended $36.6 million. And as I understand it, when having a discussion with, because we always look at where the differences are and have conversations with the client as to what caused that. And here in this district, it was caused really by vacant positions. So you can't look at that particular amount and think you're going to have that from year to year. After that is the required supplementary information, and you'll see, again, all of the details with regard to the teacher's plan, the ERS plan, as well as the MERS plan, as well as the OPEB. Starting on page 81, you'll see the summary of the aggregate of the non-major governmental funds. The special revenue funds actually start on 83, but what I can tell you, even though you have a number of funds, you have the CTC funds that represent approximately $296,000. You've got a donation fund of $101,000, and you have the student activity funds of $260,000. So that's $657,000 of the $835 you see here. So I'm looking on page 81, and I'm looking at the restricted fund balance. So of the restricted fund balance, basically, there are 3 funds that make up the majority of it. The capital project funds can be found starting on page 105. Here you've got a committed amount at year end of $1,547,000. $1,004,000 of it is the housing aid fund, and $142,000 is that members capital project fund that I spoke about. Other than that, the proprietary funds, we talked a little bit about the proprietary funds earlier. The detail of those are found starting on page 107. And again, the athletic fund has the only deficit of $9,684,000. And on page 108, you can really see the activities. So realistically, the night school fund had no revenue in the past year, but a few amount of expenses, $6,000 worth of expenses. The adult ed had $14,750 of revenue and $29,000 worth of expenses. The CTC had $52 million worth of revenue and $55 of expenses, and the before school program broke even at $27,743 of revenue and $27,743 of expenses. And the detail of all of those revenues and expenses, can be found in the underlying detail at the district's finance department. Other than that, the remaining supplementary information that's included in here is required by the state. It's referred to as the MPT2. That's the information that the district sends off to the state for certification. Once it gets verified, it comes back to the district, and it's required to be included in this document. So that's what you see on those pages. And then, as I indicated earlier, what's referred to as the Yellow Book report, or the report on internal controls, is on page 116 and 117, and here you had no findings at all. So you have a very clean document.
Thank you. You're always very thorough, Ms. Sahadi. Thank
No,
you. You're always
Mrs.
very
Sahadi.
thorough.
Mrs. Hattie.
Mrs. Sahadi, sorry.
You did it again.
You did it? Well, congratulations to Greg and Gina and the team in the finance office, to the superintendent. No findings again this year.
Right.
Great job.
Right.
Does anyone have any questions for our presenter?
I get water this.
Thanks,
This
Linda.
is
Just let us know.
Thank you.
Get a tickle
Thank you.
going on.
I was away for a few days and I just came back very late last night, so I could do this today for you.
Thank you.
so much. Any questions from any members of the school committee?
Now, just quickly, you have another document in front of you. It's called the Single Audit Report. Again, here, very clean report, no findings. This year, we tested as required by the federal government, the nutrition program and the SPED program, and there were no findings. There aren't going to be any significant changes. There is a change in the uniform guidance for next year where they're changing the limits, but the district is already well above. So right now, if you have under $750,000 of federal money, you don't have to have the details of this audit prepared. Next year, it's going to $1 million, but your revenue is 4.4 million or 4.3 million. So this report will still be required in years going forward.
Okay. So I have a question. I don't know if it's for our presenter or for Mr. Zenyan. So, the comment that you made earlier about the reimbursement of the prior year for health and dental expenses. So for 2024, it was about 780,000. And then for 2025, it was just over 41,000. Why such a huge difference?
Because what happens is the trust holds the money for you, and it requires the deposits to be included annually to cover a certain amount of claims, and maybe Greg could describe that better, but a certain amount of claims. And the trust was holding more money than it needed to based on the estimated claims that would go forward in the future years. And so that those excess monies were refunded.
Okay. And on page 68, which you said that's the page that everybody looks at, so where it says the Charahoe Regional School District budget and actual for the unrestricted fund as of June 30th, 2025. So when you look at revenues versus expenses, so the variance was just over $1 million for expenditures, and the excess of revenues over expenditures was 1.3 million. So are you saying that there was a balance, if you will, because there were, in your opinion, there were a number of positions, like vacant positions? Is that the reason why there was a balance of like 1.3 million?
Well, let's look at the $1 million first. So we're looking at the expenditure side. So the expenditures were $1,070,000, so under the budget.
Right.
588 or 589 related to the positions, right? So that's and then $400,000 related to other purchase services.
Okay.
And then that was the majority of it. You can see, looking down the rest of it, you had 180 over, but then you had 260 under. The benefits happen to be over. I'm not sure whether it was as it relates to health insurance or not. I'm
Okay.
guessing it probably did, but I shouldn't guess, so I guess I could look that up for you.
Okay. Yeah, and on that page too, where it says, variance favorable, so there was about $430,000 unspent for other purchase services.
That's correct.
So what would other purchase services mean? Can you give us an example?
I don't have the detail of that.
Okay.
I
Greg,
don't
do you
know
have
if
any
Greg
other
does.
purchase services, like specialized services?
So other purchase services could be a contract for special
Curriculum?
education for, like, for example, Rhode Island School of the Deaf. We have to sometimes get interpreters or to translate things. So things that require review. We can get you some examples, and I can make sure it's part of the budget presentation so it's clearer.
Okay. Any other questions from the members? So do we need a motion to accept the audit, or was this just a presentation? Are we that formal in accepting the audit? Do you
I
know-
think you do accept the audit.
Okay. Okay. So can I get a motion to accept the fiscal year 25 annual district audit? So moved. Okay, from Polly, seconded by? By Jess? Okay. All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you so much.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate you.
Thank you.
Your thorough presentation, as always.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I appreciate it.
Happy holidays.
You too.
Thank you. Next item of business, bus monitor variance request.
So this is a request that we do every year. This is just for the main campus. This says that our middle schoolers and high schoolers don't require, because we have grade 5 at the middle school, we ask for the variance, and we do this every year around this time.
Okay.
I make a motion to approve the variance request.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on this? Seeing no hands raised, all in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. Budget transfers.
I recommend approval of the budget transfers as submitted.
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion and a second by Linda. Any discussion? Seeing no hands raised, all in favor? Unanimous.
So this is the transportation resolution that Chair Dinsmore asked about the timing of this and whether we should do it in December or January. I thought it was, very timely. I was thinking of maybe holding off, but after her and I had discussed it, we thought with January and the budget coming up, it may be in our best interest because we have our meeting on January 9th with our legislative team to just reinstitute the fact that we would like to see that the General Assembly and the governor fully fund regional transportation.
Okay, so we have a motion by Karen, seconded by Diane. Any discussion on this? Jess?
My question is, should we wait to send it until we have the number for the law, until it's introduced? So like I could amend the motion to say,
That was our conversation.
approve this once there's a number, put it in the blank, then submit it. Because right now it just has a blank because the new year hasn't
The new
started
budget.
yet.
We actually had the same conversation, but we figured we'd get it in front of you and just put the number in once we have it.
Okay, yeah. Do you want me, do we need to amend the motion to say that or just, okay.
So we're gonna hold this until.
Once we have the number, I'll add the number, and then Angela will send it to all the school committees and the regional districts and all the legislators.
Okay.
We'll have it before probably January 1.
So my question is, do we need to put this back on the agenda, or do we
No.
just, can, okay.
Because
can
you're
we just
approving the
put this number
resolution
back
to,
in?
your ask is not about the exact dollar amount, because that can shift based on even numbers for per pupil enrollment and how much we do. So what this is just, you're saying that we want to give the resolution to support fully funding regional transportation regardless of whatever number it is.
So do we need to rescind the motion and reintroduce
you're
it?
good.
No, you're good? Okay, all right. Any discussion, any more discussion on this? Okay, all in favor? Unanimous. Terrific. Okay, moving on. Budget Subcommittee update. Karen, I'm gonna, yes, hand that over to you.
What exactly are we looking for?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I just wanted to know, I think Jess brought it up a couple months ago, that if any members had any suggestions for the way the budget is presented to the members, could it be organized in a different way? Could it be, more concise? I know that last year, there were lots of questions around different line items. And some of those line items, the superintendent would say, that's underfunded or an unfunded mandate. So, and it seemed like those questions, similar questions came up over and over again about, the same line items. So I was just wondering if there could be some sort of a denotion of, or a notation on that 56-page budget of items that are, unfunded mandates or
So,
stuff like that.
Sorry.
Yeah,
I
go
didn't
ahead.
mean to- So part of our conversation was defining what's an unfunded mandate, because there's a lot of things that are in the budget that, while we're not, they're not mandates, we are required to pay for them. And we do receive state aid, and for the past 3 years, we've received more than previously. So we are being funded. So I'm not sure what an unfunded mandate is. I don't think the state is going to fully fund everything that's required, but we are receiving state aid.
Okay.
That's,
And what about line items that are required by law? Can that be noted on any part of the budget?
It's not the simple, Chris. For example, like heating oil, is that required by law? Are we required to heat the buildings?
Of course.
Yeah, but it's not necessarily, it's not
But
in
it's
the
not-
law,
it's
right?
not in the law.
It's a basic need.
So,
So that's where, so what we were thinking is that my budget presentation, we would sort of highlight sort of the larger sort of E-codes and where these things fall, so you sort of know where that direction is. So for example, like the science curriculum law that goes into place in 2026, I asked Dr. Camilla, to pull out that dollar amount, so you can say, this is above that work, but this is required by law. But again, I'm one of those people that get semantics sometimes. I can get in the weeds. Because then when you think about it we have in our contract that our teachers are a part of that process and choose those opportunities and be a part of that work. So we may not necessarily, like that one program, it may not be mandated by law because it's our choice. So let's say it's almost like an RFP for like services, the least most responsible bidder. It may not be the least, but we believe it's the most responsible for what our kids need. So this is where it gets tricky, but I'm hoping maybe in my presentation, I can highlight things like that make it cleaner and clearer because, that we went back and forth, like, all the transportation, like we transportate, based on our policy, we transport every kid. But that's a policy decision, not a required decision, where some districts you'll see like they give you miles. If you live further than a mile, you get this. We do that with certain like basically a walking distance for our bus stops, but we don't say we don't transport. That's a difference. So that's a school committee decision. So yes, by law, we offer transportation, but you all have the ability to increase or go lower. So we thought maybe kind of highlighting things like that where you can say, well, do we want to change that policy? Another good example is around classroom size. Our contract is higher than what we typically like to do. I typically do not recommend we go to class size. None of our elementary schools are at class size. We have, Ashway is always the closest. Ashway always has the largest class sizes, and they're our five-star school, and they do well. But then we have, like this year, Charleston has a bump in their grade 4, as does, I think, Richmond, a little bit less based on our Hope Valley move when we close the school. So that bump actually leaves where their kindergartens are at 15, 14. So I think overall, but that's our decision. So the committee can have certainly advise me to increase class sizes to class capacity. I would not recommend, but that's an example of it's contractual, but we try to balance our student needs so that, you hear that our teachers are looking for us to be thoughtful, especially on our SEL opportunities. So that's where I think we're sort of trying to make sure we balance the differences and hoping that maybe my presentation, my recommendation would be that throughout this process, now that you've all been through, like nobody is sort of a freshman anymore, as you will, that we sort of talk through the presentation and see how Mr. Denny and myself, Dr. Camilla, put that forward to you, and then think about the budget as it extends, and then maybe talk about the feedback, like, hey, this would be great about having this in the budget for next year, or doing it this way. Just to give some context, the budget subcommittee, what we've shared in the past, was that it's really important that we know any changes you want to the budget book before October 1st, because then what we do is we create those documents, and then the principals have to provide me the information in that format.
Okay. So I think it would be a good idea for all of us, if you've kept your 56-page budget book from last year, just to maybe take a look at it before they print them. And if there's anything that you have some feedback on, to, I would say, email Greg and Gina collectively.
Well, we can't change the book. No, because that's how we've set up the budget that way for budget one. But,
Gotcha.
I think it's important to note that the decision for the way that the budget is designed is when Tyler started the budget subcommittee. Andrew, I think Karen, do you want to add? Okay.
Yeah. So when we first started this subcommittee, we looked at all of the columns, and I actually brought one of the older books to show. So if people are interested to see what the 2023 budget book looked like and how small the print is and how many columns there are, I have that available.
Okay.
Versus last year's book, which was much easier to read and to process through. So it was actually Tyler's recommendation to move some of the columns to make it easier to read, and he recommended removal of the adjusted budget column and only see the actuals, as this is all that is needed.
and this should include all of the transfers. So removing those would give more space, was his comment.
Okay.
Can I also, the superintendent said October 1st, but please keep in mind on October 1st, we are rolling out the budget, like what they're gonna do. On October 31st, all the schools are required to have their budget in. I asked the subcommittee to have a meeting in April and give, if you really want changes to this budget book, that's something we would need in April, May, probably June the latest.
Okay.
Because it has to all be prepared and then given to all the schools. They get it on October 1st with a very quick turnaround. They have to have it back to us by October 30th, and then they have to defend it in the month of November.
If it's a major change,
Right.
I
Well,
don't.
almost any change though, because if you move one column, and if you start playing with the columns, you're going to see how small the print gets. And then people are going to say, we can't read this. What are you trying to hide?
The budgets are available, all the old, if you go on our website for the budget packets, they're always there, all the budget books. We don't remove them so that people can go back and, for full transparency. But yes, we've received critiques and feedbacks. And actually, if you review a district's websites, you're not going to see the level of detail that the school committee gets. And I think that may also be part of our concern, that maybe it's so much, it's like hard to sort of unpack. So the more that we can make it more efficient and really palpable to understand, that's where we really want to make sure you get what you need and that it makes sense.
Lori, had your hand raised?
So if that stuff needed to be in by April or before then, I guess my confusion is that when was that question proposed where you, Karen and Jess, I think Jess, you mentioned at one of the meetings, the school committee meetings, you said if anybody has any suggestions on what they would like to see on the budget books or formatting, whatever the case is, then why was it brought up then and not back in April?
Jess and Karen.
So to answer your question, I didn't mean like budget book, I just meant in general concerns. But I would like to go over like the budget, the update, and go over some of the history. That was why I had my hand raised, but if you have more questions.
Yeah, no, I just was wondering why because it seemed like the timing on it seems a little bit off because the budgets get approved in March, correct? Isn't that when we do the vote?
No, April.
April.
Oh, you're talking about your vote, or you're talking
Our
about
vote. Ours.
you approve the budget in March so that the taxpayers have 30 days to review, and then August is the public vote.
Okay.
April.
And so, Greg, what
Or
you're
not to
saying
April, I
is
said
that
August,
if
sorry.
the committee wants to make any changes to the formatting or anything like that, because I had brought a couple of suggestions to the subcommittee from feedback that I had received from other members of the committee, and then brought it to the subcommittee for that. But at that point, it seems like you're saying that it was already kind of too late because now it would be a massive thing for you guys to have to adjust that because it has to be done one at a time. Like you don't have a template basically is what you're saying. So am I understanding that right?
We have a template, but the template can only fit so much. And when you start moving it, everything has to be rearranged. And then it all has to be printed. So I have said since I started, right when the budget is approved by this committee, we should have recommendations on what you want differently. I have said since I've gotten in this position, April is too late.
And he's only been here for 1 year. So I think what I would like to add is that what Mr. Zenian is saying is I think what he's trying to suggest is the earlier he knows, the best case scenario is if we know in April by the time the budget's voted on, that we get your feedback during budget season. That's probably the easiest because then we can really prepare in the summertime when the students aren't in session. However, realistically, can we make some changes? Yes, but to his point, that's where sometimes when it's down to the wire, you can make mistakes. So we like to make sure we're all very much, A-type, cross our T's and dot our I's. So it would be helpful, especially as the school year starts, it gets busy. And I think all of us know that we try really hard to do our best. So what I think Mr. Zenian is trying to get across is if he can know by April, he really would appreciate that. It would be like I think, a relief for our staff in the office to make sure that they could do their due diligence and give you what you need. However, can we make changes? We can, we just prefer to know ahead of time, especially if there's something in the midst of it that seems like it's just not working for you. Karen, you had your hand raised?
I'm not sure if Jess was done though.
Yeah, I could still, to go back to the purpose of the budget subcommittee when we formed it, it wasn't just to change the budget book. It was in 2023. The goals were to debrief the budget process, just to go over this kind of discussion you have about how things went, what you could have changed, explore recommendations to make to the school committee, ongoing review of the budget, and to work on future budgets. That year, Tyler Champlin was appointed as chair, and several initiatives and motions moved forward. Moving transfers and bills out of consent and into business, that's something that has been running on our agenda for a while. Adding a sheet that shows a running transfer total in addition to the new transfers and the budget memo, which I think was part of it, but all of that has been in the business part of the agenda for a couple of years. We hosted a discussion with state legislative officials. So in addition to the omnibus, which is an opportunity to do that, we thought that was really helpful. Talked about things like categorical transportation aid and concerns that might be addressed through legislation. We hosted a data presentation from RIDE to highlight their budget dashboard, UCOA, and other data analysis features, which we then requested that to be delivered to the full school committee, and it was in October 2024. Final motions were made about the formation of the budget book, removing adjusted and year-to-date columns to give space and clarity to the upcoming fiscal year, and adding a column showing the percentage increase or decrease. I know that's something a lot of us brought up on numerous occasions. I think that's a helpful column. So in 2024, there were attempts for the subcommittee to meet from the administration and some of the members, but no meetings were held. In 2025, there just also highlight some of the other budgetary changes that have happened without the subcommittee. So we voted as a school committee to add budget workshops back to the budget process. We reconvened in March with a revised membership, and Karen Reynolds was appointed as chair. At this first meeting, we did address concerns about unfunded mandates, but as we said before, the discussion revealed difficulty with this classification since the district receives state aid. That's not specified on how it should be spent, but we also do receive state aid that is specified in how it should be spent. Categorical transportation aid, housing aid. There was an attempt to separate the budget into school locations, but we steered away from this. We didn't think it was in the spirit of Cherahoe, and that many staff work in different buildings. At subsequent meetings, 3 subsequent meetings, we received updates from the finance team about budget formation through meetings with school administrators, and we requested that school committee members share their goals and concerns about the budget and process. We discussed changes to the district purchasing policy that was approved by the school committee, and another budgetary change that happened through the year. At our last meeting, which Laura was not available for, Karen and I discussed with Greg moving transfers and budget update back to consent because it is part of the agenda, but we don't always discuss it in business. So we thought moving it back to consent might be something we could do, because then we could just go through business more quickly, streamline it. So in addition to working through the FY26 budget process, I just wanted to also point out some of the votes that the school committee has taken regarding the budget. So numerous needs that require transfers and allocation of resources, like the approval of the certified educator contract, extra expenses related to the closure of Hope Valley Elementary School, retention of world language instruction, and funding for a new playground at Richmond Elementary. Those topics to me just illustrate that the budget is a living document that requires a year-long process, while we also consider the long-term impact. So a lot of the work we do is not just during the budget season, it really is year-long, and it's not just on the budget subcommittee. Additional concerns that have been expressed by the school committee that could result in a budget impact include athletic field upgrades and maintenance, student support staff, and transportation. These are concerns that we've heard during the last year. So I believe that expressing these concerns are an important part of the budget process, and I ask that all members of this committee continue their due diligence and stewardship of Cherahoe's budget and the upcoming budget process. The subcommittee appreciates their opportunity to discuss the work of the subcommittee, and we hope that it will further our goal to make the budget process understandable, transparent, and accessible. We did schedule a next meeting for April 13th to debrief the budget process. Thank you for listening.
Thanks. Karen?
She covered it.
She covered it. Okay. So, at this point, the
suggestions that some of the administrators brought up last month. I think Sharon Martin had a couple of suggestions for the school committee last month. I wrote them down last month. Teachers at Tier 1 understand differentiating core, increase writing scores, expand teacher repertoire to deliver Tier 2 interventions, for standard treatment protocol in math and social emotional behavior, and specialized coaching and behavior at Tier 2 level at the elementary level. So this type of sort of request that Sharon Martin made, when we get the budget, how do we know where in the budget that lies?
So that's where I come in with the budget presentation. So Mrs. Martin already shared what she's already asked for. We've already built in. So what happens is, just like I said, so when she mentioned it, for example, the board certified behavior analyst, when you all approve when you all look at the budget book, and I always forget which section's which, because for me, the budget is the budget. But the section where you get in the weeds, and I think some members have asked, oh, can you give us this new, like, so many page budget? But that's an example that Charahoe does, because what we do is we say, okay, here's our new budget. If all was created equal, and today was the day that it went into effect, all these people are here, it would look like this. But in essence, by the time the budget's voted on, people change positions, they get promoted, they move schools, they go on leaves. So that money has to shift to the correct UCOA code, because that's the law. And that's what RIDE requires through the UCOA document. So we don't have the staff to continue to replicate that, because that's just a lot of work. And all the changes, we just can't, no bandwidth for that. But what we do in the section that has the E code, that's really where you want to sort of look at that high level and then ask the questions. And what we've done this year is we've taken the FAQs that we've done now for the last few years. We have reviewed the budget workshop. We've reviewed my minutes and all of your questions throughout the last 2 years. And we've revised the budget presentation to really be more like, moments in time, as well as maybe like the omnibus may look a little different than what a budget workshop's going to look like, because I think it's going to be really important. Like, one question we get asked a lot is, enrollment is decreasing, why is it your budget? So we think it's really important for us to highlight, well, why? Well, because we still have to put the heat on, we still have to do the same things, even though if I have 15 kids or 25 kids in the classroom, I have to create the environment, and it doesn't necessarily save dollars, but I think it's important for us to recognize where those opportunities are. So for example, when Sharon asks for the BCBA, that is part of our work. And I'm really proud of the administrators, and I'm really proud of the work that we do. And while I was a little taken aback by the email from Ms. Chapman, because it's the first I'm hearing of it, I can tell you that Mrs. Drake, Mr. Gencarelli, Mrs. Florence, those that have left for other opportunities would be more than happy to come and talk about how they thrive here, and that this leadership is the best team that they've ever worked with, and they all miss it. But there's opportunities that they have to do on their own times as well. So this work, when we think about the opportunity to really hone in on how we want to build that strategic plan, you want to see, and I'm so proud, the admins will what Sharon shared is that larger piece of work. She understands that vision. We know with the board certified behavior analyst that really that job embedded PD will be able to enhance the work of the district. So in this strategic plan coming forward, as in January, and actually I'm jumping to my reports a little, but in my reports, I hope everyone stays, because usually everybody leaves from my side of the house. But in the end, I'm going to make some connections to our capital plan and our strategic plan that really, I think, will help the committee understand even your sort of collaboration as we build the strategic plan. This is your first opportunity, because I begin the presentation with budget. It starts from there so that you can see how this is going to live and come to fruition. And while sometimes we have to slow down, because, I wish we had all the money that we needed to do all the things that we want to do. And what I can tell you is all of the teachers are well-intended, all of our admins are well-intended, but it's about everybody knows their sort of microscopic view, and it's my responsibility to understand the district as a whole and really ensure that we're strategic on how we place that dollar. So I'm hoping with the budget presentation that I can sort of lighten that load for all of you. We can also think about maybe bringing Santiago back in for if there's something specific, maybe that's a special meeting, so that we can, dive even deeper and you can utilize the dashboard for your own questions so that it can come out as more of a workshop. I think those are opportunities that could enhance our collaboration together, if that makes sense.
Okay. So I guess I have a final question for the members of the budget subcommittee, because we have a lot of subcommittees compared to other districts. At least that's what Gina told me, and when we had our agenda planning session last week, she said that our district has a plethora of subcommittees compared to other districts. So, and this is no disrespect to the budget subcommittee, because I know that the budget is, a $70 million, organization. The mission of the budget subcommittee, I just need to understand what's the mission of the budget subcommittee. If the budget is a living, breathing document and recommendations have to come to this full school committee anyway, I guess I'm just trying to ask a question about what's the mission of this subcommittee in your opinion? So, open-ended question. And I'm not trying to, again, this is meant as no disrespect to the chair of the subcommittee or the two members, Laura and Jess. But I'm just mindful of, how many subcommittees we have. So, Karen, go ahead.
Well, I don't know, this isn't really on the agenda, but I think we could start with the audit subcommittee, because that was a meeting that I sat through last week with Greg and Lynn, and it was just three of us. So I think if we're looking to eliminate subcommittees, that might be one.
Some of them are
I don't think that one's in the
Oh, you don't think
Charahoe Act.
that's
The
okay.
finance one
Remember a couple
is.
years ago, I went through all the committees and tried to get rid of some?
Yeah, I think the finance committee is in the Charahoe Act, but the audit is
Okay,
not.
You're right.
I could be wrong.
No, I think you're right.
So the original intent behind the budget subcommittee, as Jess stated, was to debrief the budget process, explore and make recommendations to the committee. We asked for that. We're always asking for that, I think, ongoing. An ongoing review of the budget, which we do at every school committee because we're looking at transfers and voting on budget items, and work on future budgets. So if you're deeming the work as completed, then I'm fine with giving up a subcommittee. I think finding Greg and Kathy
think they'll
Kozel
be
a few
very
extra
happy with that.
hours in their very busy day, I'm all for it. I mean, I do want to say, I spent a little bit time here. Our finance department does amazing work with very few staff. It's Greg, it's Lynn, and it's Kathy. And I think Kathy is now the clerk of just about every subcommittee. She's
Building,
she's
yep.
building,
That's big
which
schools.
is a full-time job in and of itself.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm all for taking something off a plate. You know, we talk a lot about that in education, that everybody's plate is full, and I am all for taking things off plates.
Okay. Would you like me to
Thanks,
add what
Karen.
year it is?
Are we allowed to vote on it?
Year it is? What do you mean? Well, the budget subcommittee, just so I know, because we did this activity a couple of times, but the audit subcommittee was put in by the school committee in 1992. So I did a little bit, this is when I was asked a couple of years ago to do the history. So to Karen's point, she's correct. It was added as another way to sort of make sure there was a lot of, if you can imagine, people were concerned that the budget wasn't transparent enough and they wanted more people involved throughout the year. So that was started in 1992, and then the budget subcommittee was in 2023. So I do, like, you did take one committee off the table when you revised the policy for school committee, the school improvement team selection no longer, because you revised that policy. So what you might want to do is typically, because it's a non-election year, you would do subcommittees in, well, you could actually look at, if you're thinking about taking things off, you could bring it up in the spring as well to see, because I would think that there are opportunities for you all to be thoughtful about even your time. I think you all see how much time it takes, and
Okay. All right, thank you for the, Jess, did you have any other input? Okay. Laura, did you have any other input as a member of that subcommittee?
No, I I think it's great. that the mission has been accomplished, so we can, because it's a lot of work, especially if, you have a full-time job outside of it as well. And I'm sure with Greg's team, only 3 of them, I can only imagine. So it seems to me that it's, a little bit redundant because it does go back to the committee. And if there are changes that want to be made, then why not just have the whole committee do it? Because that's really the directive anyway.
And we do have budget workshops, so
Yes.
that's that's where the transparency comes in for the public and for us, so. Okay. Well, thank you, Karen, for the update. Jess and Laura, thank you very much for your work. All right, discussion for possible website design services for the capital improvement plan requested by member Purcell. Jess, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you. So to start, the necessity for school construction tab of the Charahoe website. It serves a purpose, but it's essentially what I would call a bucket with links to PDFs of documents. So there's a lot of information there, but you have to click each one. It'll make you download a document. If mine does, if I'm on my phone, it makes me download a document. I have to find it. If I put it somewhere, I never find it again. It's not really a website. It's more of a server of PDFs. So I think it serves a function, but from a design and communication standpoint, I think it's inadequate and it should be improved if we're, really serious about giving information about this capital improvement plan and a unified school. I think the greatest limitations of the current page are lack of function, flow, visual engagement, and accessibility. Like I said, it serves a purpose, but it doesn't have the accessibility of a website. I'd like to see something be the go-to place for information about the capital improvement plan for the elementary schools. I think it's, prohibitive. These documents have to be downloaded. A proper website would have all the information coded into its design, drop-down menus, links, and it would be engaging to the user to engage them in learning and planning about the future vision of Charahoe schools. I've seen examples which are hosted through the school district servers and some that are through their towns. But I've seen websites and web pages that share excellent information, district-wide, at scale, not only about the process, but the progress that's been made, a timeline, and FAQ, which we do as well, but it's the same thing, it's a document. And I'd like to see some live features too, like how to sign up for an email list, how to submit a question, how to send an email, some of the common features on websites. Just to give some examples of websites I've seen that I think are really good. Barrington Warren has one about their capital projects, and a lot of them it's right off of their,
What'd you say?
She said Bristol Warren?
No, she said.
Oh, sorry, Bristol Warren, not Barrington Warren. It's off of their main website, / capital projects. Barrington Schools has another page for their construction. Middletown, Rhode Island has information about their new middle / high school. So my main purpose would be to ensure that a web page is accessible to users, including those that use it on a mobile phone. And I want to ensure that all stakeholders have access to one place where they can access the information they want, sign up for updates, have a message function. I'm not sure if an RFP is the right way to go about this. I don't know if, I know that everyone in this district does a lot of different jobs, but I don't know if our tech team could handle anything, or if the owner, project manager, or architect can offer some services. I know, there's even a Google website, I think even would be an improvement. So I just wanted to get this conversation going. Now, we do have the benefit of more time with this plan than we did when we were going for 3 new schools last spring. So I think there's time to plan ahead and consider how we want to communicate district-wide with one place of information from the district that is accessible.
Okay, thanks for that overview. Gina, do you want to weigh in on this?
So, I completely understand, and actually, Mr. O'Brien's in the back, and he's done a lot of our website work, but that's just not all we're responsible for. So while, and again, if this is an ask from the school committee, you would, at the budget, you would add it to the FY '27 budget, so we could do it July 1. There's two ways you could do this. You could hire a vendor, which I believe is what the other districts did. But I'm gonna double check with the superintendents there. But I believe sometimes, they have a marketing firm. We talked to Colliers and Slam. They said that, they can give us sort of maybe referrals to marketing, firms, but they don't have that in-house service. Am I correct, Greg?
They gave us referrals for two Providence-based companies. I looked into both of them.
So what I think is important is I absolutely agree. I am your communications, and Eric is we do the best we can, but our bandwidth can get tight, especially if, life happens every now and then. Things get busy. So I think it would be up to the committee to determine, what they believe is in the best interest of the district to be able to do that. Do you want it to be that infrastructure where we hire someone internally to do that work? Do you want to do it where we have a vendor, a consultant that sort of gets us up and running? And this is not something I could say, we could have the kids do it, because you have to understand this and that they're learning. So this is not maybe a learning platform, but this is definitely, I think it's a reasonable request, but it would be up to the committee to decide how to implement.
So can I ask a question? I know that through CTE, we have graphic design.
I was just gonna ask.
We were in sync. And do some of the students have a project that they have to get credit for? Is this something that the graphic design students could take up, starting in either the spring or in the fall?
For this year, probably not, but I can check. I want it because they usually, as they do their projects, they usually have to decide earlier when there's their long-term, and they start to present in the spring. But I can definitely talk to Ms. Castro. She's our graphic design teacher. But remember, this comes with an understanding of a lot of this, the detail, so that somebody then would have to provide that level of information. There are opportunities in AI as well. So one of the things before Mr. Draper left that we were looking at was the automaticity. So for when Jess said like responding, where your AI would literally cull your information from your website and give it to you. Say, where would I find this? There wasn't an appetite 3 years ago, but maybe that's something we start with, because I think that's an opportunity where we actually reached out to the principals and said, would you be willing to pilot? I'm gonna be honest, a lot of people in our towns prefer like the picking up the phone. They want to talk to someone. So that's where we sort of walked it back. But in the end, there's not just one way to do this. I think this is a good opportunity for us to sort of think through. I can talk with Ms. Castro and bring back some information, but I think we might want to, if this is something that the committee is interested in, might want to bring this back for further review.
So if you look at the homepage of the Charahoe Regional School District, there's some circles with some various topics. So busing, bullying, athletics, e-update, special ed, there's a bunch of stuff. So, and then there's, sort of pull down menus, home, district information, school committee, administration, staff, parents, students, teaching and learning. So I understand where Jess is coming from, because to try to find information on the one unified school and this whole process, it's tough to navigate and it's tough to find. So maybe we can find some sort of a happy medium about putting a one unified school circle on the homepage and then have content from there. So it's at least it's more accessible to the public to try to find it, more easily than, because if you don't know that it's under necessity for school construction, it's very difficult to find.
We could, I think Dr. Camilla mentioned, as well as the Google site, we think that was that was sort of our happy medium. And Mr. O'Brien, this is your wheelhouse. Feel free to provide the advice of the school committee. What maybe you would be thinking, as he's my go-to. I'm like, Eric, what do you think? How do we do this? Do you mind?
Come on up to the microphone, please.
Can I just say one thing too?
Yes.
I know that we did have it front and center on like the homepage to find it, but my issue too is when you go to, and maybe you can speak to this, when you go to the necessity for school construction, it's just a bucket of documents, which is fine for the budget. You know what you're looking for, but for a project of this magnitude, like I'm not looking for a happy medium. I think we should offer the most information that is easily accessible and understandable to all constituents in the district.
Linda, I'm sorry, you had your hand raised too.
Well, I guess I'm naive, and I think you answered it. You had it. Is this an expensive? If we had to contract out, this is an expensive. I mean,
Well,
what was some of the?
Can you tell us who the companies were that they suggested?
They gave me two that I believe were on the
MPA.
MPA list.
Okay.
Just generally.
They have a retainer. They are they're expensive.
Okay. I figured they would be, but because that's something
But-
that needs to be monitored all the time, right? I mean, once you can set it
Well-
up, but when you want to update it, someone
Well,
needs to be
maybe we
monitoring.
let Eric give his opinion. 'cause he
Okay,
does-
sorry,
this, is
Eric.
what- this is his wheelhouse.
Sorry. Go.
No, I definitely agree that the page we have now is just like a pile of documents. It's hard to find stuff, and finding that page itself is hard. The search function on our website it leaves a little to be desired. The idea of implementing something that's like AI driven that will better interpret what you're looking for and give you a more structured response would be great. But and I also think that marketing this project, with a nice page, is a good way to go. Using some company to come up with something is going to be expensive. If we could, a lot of the subgroups, for lack of a better term, like the nurses, some of the reading teachers, they'll put together a Google site because it's easier to work with, and then we'll just link to that. A good starting point might be creating a Google site and then having it in a circle on the webpage, and see how you feel about that.
And we could do that because we don't have this budgeted right now. It would be FY27 anyway. We could pilot that and see how that goes, and then sort of review it maybe in May.
I mean, could we also pull from other, because Jess was saying that there's other schools that have that. I mean, realistically, you could use Gemini and ask that to pull that information and then have it create a website for you.
Oh yeah, we can always look at other schools for inspiration.
Right. And then just again, link it, and you have a Google site that you're using. When you click on the link on the homepage, it'll bring you directly to that site, and it'll format everything the way that you want it to.
Right.
So it could be pretty, I feel like it would be a cost-effective solution to go that route rather than hiring an expensive firm to try to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and sort of who drives this bus? Because in the past, Gina, you said that you're like the chief communications
And then I
graphic
call
designer.
Eric on Saturday and I say, Eric, I can't get this to upload. Why? He's like, oh, you added a period. I'm like, oh my gosh. But in the end, it's usually me, Eric, Sean, it's Mike. Sometimes, we all pitch hit and try to do the best we can. But sometimes, it gets, it's a priority. Some things always something else happens. So we do our best, and I'm very proud of our IT staff. And there is on top of this, it's cybersecurity and phishing attempts and scamming, and we've had inroads with that as well. So while this is important, there's a lot of things that are important. So now, I always say if everything is urgent, then everything is urgent, and nothing's prioritized really thoughtfully. So, but this project is important. So my thinking is because we don't have it in the budget, we would start with the Google site, see how far we can go. I believe the difference with Bristol, Warren, Barrington, and Middletown, my understanding is the towns are paying for it because they're in charge of those building committees. So it's a sort of a site off because, but Bristol, Warren is regional. So I'll reach out to Anna Riley to see if that's something that they co-op together and what they did. So then Eric and I, he knows the IT people, I know the superintendents. We all have a network that we can talk through to see how we can make this work.
So how do we want to follow up on this? Do we want Gina to contact those other regional school districts or the other school districts that Jess referenced, and then give us sort of an update in an email update? And then we could revisit this based on the feedback from Gina? Polly?
I'm probably going to say something that's just common sense to me. Put it on our Charahoe webpage and go that route with the extra bubble, because I think we've already trained everybody to, if you want Charahoe information, to go to that webpage. Throwing another one out there specifically for capital improvement, it might not get a lot of traffic because if I want to go to a Charahoe webpage, I'm going to go to the main one, and add a bubble in would work great. I think that's just common sense. It's hard to get people to come out to the meetings and see the, you know, the presentations and stuff, you know, to train, it's essentially training people to go to a website that's separate from Charahoe. That's how I'm getting that from you. It's a totally separate website, or?
No, I
No,
think
that
she's
wasn't
saying that
my
it would
idea.
link.
That's
It
that's
would
just
link
an
from the-
idea.
the homepage.
But my idea, it's all on the Charahoe website now in the format. I'm not sure from what
Okay.
I've heard that the format available, the infrastructure available, could be a website within a website. So it would be accessible from the Charahoe website. It sounds like the direction we're discussing now would be a link to an external link to a website. A Google site.
Pulling it up and making it more prominent, first of all, on our main page would be very helpful for everyone in the public. But I think that's just the route that everybody goes, is right to the main page of Charahoe to look for that information.
Okay, so
That's just
accessibility,
my 2 cents.
content, that's all
Yeah.
gonna be important for this process. I mean, all right, thank you.
Thank you,
We
Erin.
Appreciate
Sure thing.
your, okay. So we'll have Gina reach out to some of her colleagues and then get back to the school committee with some feedback. And then if we need to revisit it, then we'll revisit it at a later date. Okay, is that okay with
Sounds good.
everybody? Okay, great, thank you. Consent agenda items for approval and vote. Are there any items that need to be pulled or that any of the members would like to have pulled? Larry?
A1.
A1. Okay. Anything else? Okay, so hearing none others pulled, can I get a motion for the rest of the items? So that would be.
So can I read the donations like Craig would?
Absolutely.
First, so
Who's gonna
before
step up?
we do, I'd like to read the donations listed this month, which is that the Charahoe School Committee extends its gratitude for the donation of $1,000 from CVS to the Charahoe Tech Health Career Scholarship, and to the family of the late past Superintendent Barry Ritchie for their generous donation of $500 to the Charahoe High School Library.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the remainder of the items on the consent agenda. All in favor? Unanimous. Okay, Larry, you would like to revisit A1, the regular session minutes?
Yeah, just need to update the attendance. My name is missing off it.
Is it? Thank you so much. I didn't realize.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that, Larry. What was that?
On the attendance, my name is missing off it.
Okay,
I'll have to update it for you.
thank you.
Motion to approve consent agenda item A1
With the
With the
with
edit.
the amendment change. Thanks.
Okay, so we have a motion. Do we have a second? We have a second by Laura. All in favor? Unanimous. Reports.
Okay, so for the subcommittee reports, the link to the budget subcommittee minutes are available to all members and the public. For my reports, tonight I want to briefly frame 2 report items that are intentionally connected to one another and to our broader district goals, particularly as we enter an important planning phase for the district. As we look ahead to our upcoming budget meetings and workshop, we will begin focusing on discussions around district planning and priority setting as we prepare to sunset Vision 2026 and thoroughly develop Vision 2029, and thoughtfully develop. This work will be grounded in our progress to date, our demonstrated strengths, and the areas where our current data and student needs indicate continued growth is required. The first item, the elementary capital planning update, reflects the school committee's continued responsibility and leadership following the May 2024 bond referendum. After the bond did not pass, the school committee directed the administration to repackage our most critical campus needs and revise the elementary capital plan to ensure that our approach remains fiscally responsible, responsive to community feedback, and centered on student safety and learning. This work aligns directly to our strategic goals and around facilities, student experiences, and long-term stewardship. The update tonight situates our elementary capital needs within the broader instructional and operational vision of the district and informs future budget and planning conversations. The second item, school improvement planning and preparing for Vision 2029, focuses on how our schools are using data, reflection, and continuous improvement practices to drive student achievement and outcomes. This work is foundational as we develop Vision 2029. Our next strategic plan is not intended to be a reset, but a continuation and refinement of the work launched through Vision 2026. And our school improvement planning, MTSS alignment, and structural priorities will directly inform both our budget development and our district-wide goals moving forward. Together, these two items reinforce the intentional alignment between facilities planning, instructional improvement, and fiscal stewardship, and long-range strategic planning as we prepare for the next phase in Charahoe's work. As part of this process, we will be hosting community feedback with SLAM on Monday, January 12th at 5:30 here in the library, focused on the elementary capital plan. This session will provide families and community members an opportunity to share what they believe is important as we consider the concept of a unified elementary school. It is important to note that the work remains conceptual. Final design decisions occur in stage 3, not in stage 2. This was also updated in our December e-update, and this date will also be in our January e-update. Additionally, following winter break, school improvement teams will begin reporting on their school improvement planning processes, which directly inform district strategic planning. They will update their school improvement teams on their goals and their progress to date. And with this, and as you all know, with the school improvement team law, this governance structure outlined in Rhode Island law advises our work. This input will help shape and draft Vision 2029 goals, which will be brought to the school committee for final approval review later this spring. Thank you.
Thank you. School committee requests for future agenda items or legal opinions. Okay, Polly and Karen.
Further request of the St. Pierre's, could the policy subcommittee pull the disciplinary code and we'll just review that?
So the behavior codes are reviewed every year, and
yeah.
by all of the, because the school improvement teams review, the changes I think the St. Pierre's are looking for, we can do it, but it's really not about the behavior code, it's about law.
Okay.
There's a difference, but sure, you can pull the behavior code.
Okay. Karen.
The building committee would like to attend the next meeting to provide an update.
Okay, great. We'll put that on. Thank you. Laura, did you have your hand raised? Oh, good. Diane?
Hi, yes, I would like to consider a special meeting to review the Charahoe School Committee's code of conduct, and possibly, you know, make adjustments to that if necessary.
Okay. Laura?
Sorry, was that the one that we did last time? Didn't that get pushed to the policy subcommittee already?
That was
Public forum.
forum. So
Got it.
you're
Sorry.
talking about rules of conduct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, for the Charahoe School Committee
Members. Okay.
yes.
All right. Anything else? All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Merry Christmas, happy holidays, everyone. You as well. Thank you.